Good morning. This is Minister Paul. I'm coming to you from Northern California. It's roughly 8:30 a.m. 8:28. It's February 9th, 2013 Pacific Standard Time. Just woke up about an hour ago. Let me explain something to you. First of all, for my regular subscribers, quickly, I had an awesome day, a miracle day yesterday. I had made a follow-up appointment because I had a fever and this and that and some other symptoms I'm not going to go into. Look at that flock of birds, man. I just saw an eagle fly. See that flock of birds? Just watch the animals. Look how they're all disorientated. Yeah, we have a flock of some type of bird just disorientated. Look, do you see that? They were flying north and then now they're just flying, they're disorientated. So anyway, I'd made a follow-up appointment on Thursday, but there was a healing that took place in the prayer room. We have a prayer room on Pal Talk, and both Rod for Sooners and April was there as witnesses. But you know, just to be sure, and my wife and I decided to keep our minds at ease. We would go follow up with the doctor, and plus, you can only cancel so many times, and you know they get mad actually. So I went in and the whole entire way I listened to worship music. I felt good. And they took what's called your vitals. And as she began to take my blood pressure, I felt the presence of the Lord consume me. It was exactly 2 p.m. on 2/8/2013 Pacific Standard Time. 2 p.m. exactly. Or if anybody was praying, I thank you. She began to take my blood pressure. Now everybody knows I'm a big guy, but you know, just because you're big doesn't mean you're unhealthy. You know, what you're looking at is an area I worked for 2 years straight, sometimes 100 hours a week, right, babe? Yes. So I'm serious, 100 hours a week. So 1208 Posada, that's the address if you want to Google Earth this. It's 1208 Posada Road. See that? Yeah. So I began to just feel the Holy Spirit just consume me as I'm getting my vitals checked. My blood pressure was 130/82, and it's always been 140/90 my whole life. They said it's just uncontrollable, but I've always refused to take medicine. So then she takes my heart rate. It's 62. My temperature was 97 something. I mean, it was like, so the doctor came in, he was kind of surprised, and so he rechecked him, and it actually lowered. And how many people know sometimes you go see a doctor, your blood pressure goes up a little bit, you're a little nervous? Well, and so it's usually a little elevated, but comes down later. It's been proven. He checks it. Now it's so here's my vitals for a man of my size. 130/80 blood pressure, 62 heart rate. What else? 97.7 temperature, and nothing, could find nothing. Didn't want to order no X-rays. I had to ask for blood workup, but he said it's going to be fine. He didn't order complete blood because he looked at my last labs. They were perfect. Perfect health. Perfect bill of health. Come back in 6 months. When what I was feeling, we've seen other people pass away from early at age 44 in our family. So there was a lot of concerns for the symptoms I was having that just left. So I want to start off by giving God some praise and glory that a miracle occurred yesterday, and those are our vitals. Not somebody, just that only God could do that. So let's get into. So on the way home, and I'll show this. On the way home, I stopped at Walgreens. This story would take too long to tell. But long story short, somehow I had accidentally tapped on my iPhone when getting my cash to pay her to check out, and I saw it was 337, and I'm thinking, you know, I just left like one city and was back into another. The odds of that happening, 0. And I figured nobody's ever going to believe me. That's how I just thought. remember saying that, and she was looking at me waiting to pay and staring at my phone. She said, "Everything's okay?" I said, "It's a miracle." And so she prints out the receipt. I'm looking at it right now. It says 2/8/13, 3:37 p.m. Last night, the Lord had told me, you see this school? This was used as a training zone. And He's told me this a couple nights. You see that fire? This was all set up. I've never said this before, but I'm saying it now. So I went to sleep in the family room listening to worship music. I was just going to listen to some worship music and relax, and ended up falling asleep and reclining. But before I did, I kept the earthquake map open just like that, because I just knew. And sure enough, when I woke up, at what time? It was 7:33. I could not believe it. I woke up at 7:33, and sure enough, there was another 7. Another 7 had hit, and it was 73 minutes ago. I kid you not. A 7.0 had hit 73 minutes ago when I woke up at 7:33, and no one could deny this because I'm going to show you the receipt. But look at that 7.3, where I did the coordinates are 7.3. So here's the earthquake. Look at that 7.7. So there it is, another 7. I believe that's the third 7. Am I wrong? But God had said 10 days of earthquakes, and I'll have to check the count, and I'll attach the video I'd made, which was confirmed by Harvest Army and their 10-day earthquake prophecy. But this is only the 8th day, so be prepared. So now let's go back to this story. This school you're seeing right here. Last year when I'm going to circle this area, I was parked right here when the Lord spoke to me. He said, "Are you willing to sell this whole company and go out of business and serve me?" And I'd been out here praying and fasting and reading the Word, and had been in the ministry, working in the ministry. What I'd do is I would respond to local churches for free to assist them, like overcomer programs where people would get in fights because one had snuck in alcohol or something or drugs and would lose it, wasn't supposed to. I'd just go de-escalate it. My presence, the uniform and that, instead of them having to call the police. I did that a lot. I did a lot for the local community and the local churches for free. Never charged them. Well, so I would get out here and I'd get on these 2 prayer lines. One was out of Patterson, New Jersey, Harvest Outreach. And I would just park right here because this school was caught on fire. It's called Alicia Intermediate. This is a 2-ton beam. See how close I can get. It got so hot it actually warped. There was an accelerant found, and then it burned into. This is actually 2 classes. And I have a video on how evil this place is. We found people hiding in trees. There was tree forts built up here. It'd been abandoned and left alone for 2 years, and people had moved in. They were living in this right here is the gym. This is the library. There was a 3rd fire set here. So we had a patrol car on this side, and on this side there was no power. Everything to this school was cut off for safety reasons. You worked in total, utter darkness. One night, God said, "Will you accept the call?" And I did. I used to walk this. It's 43 acres. It goes all the way, butts out almost to the airport. You could drive in the perimeter if you wanted. And what they'd do is they'd set up roadblocks at night. You couldn't see them out here. And so it's to where you couldn't come around and get to check on the Little League baseball diamond here, which was all of this, even this Little League. All of this was owned by the county that had contracted me. This whole from this entry point on Pasado to this entry point on this called South Gledhill, drug area, really bad, and this backed up to this trailer park. They would literally come over here and shoot at you. Bullets would hit the wall. There'd be bullet holes. And then you'd call law enforcement for backup, and they would run in to this mobile home, but there was literally no way for law enforcement to get here because this was gated. This whole thing was gated with locks, so you're just like a sitting duck in here. So let me get to the story. Long story short, we had a dummy car here that made it look like a second car because they refused to. Sometimes we would just take a loss for safety, officer safety reasons, and put an extra car here. But after a while, they knew it was empty, and they would tamper with it. So you'd have to go walk through here. I've explained this before. It's called the kill zone at night to try to sneak up on them. And they'd be up here on the roof. See, they could come in through the Little League, come through these bushes, get on this roof. There was a pipe they'd pull themselves up on. And from the top of the roof, they have full access to the school, and they had parked holes in the roof. So they could be over here watching you where you were down doing your foot patrol. So we had decided no foot patrols on this side. This building's already suffered enough damage. We're just going to do vehicle patrols. And so they'd set up roadblocks. So what I would do, my normal night I would take the patrol car over these basketball courts, around the fire, and through here, come over here. I could nut it right up into here, and then I could see this street area, the front, and then I'd come back around here to this was a fence, and people did drive-bys. This is Alicia Avenue. We're just almost weekly here. They just had 4 people involved in a shooting right here down the road. Really bad area. So one day I'm sitting like in between these 2 portables, just kind of in surveillance mode, and I'm on a prayer line, and it's 3:30 in the morning was when the prayer line started, so it's probably 4:30 approaching 5 a.m. Pacific. And there's a prophet on there. His name's Prophet Levengood, very good friend of mine for a few years now in Atlanta, Georgia. He said, Minister Paul, are you ready to move? And I said, absolutely. And I started up my car and I pulled up. And remember, this is total, complete blackout. I pulled my car around here and he said, what are you doing? I said, I'm moving, man. He said, no, I meant spiritually move. I said, oh, but as I got here, I saw headlights at this gate. And I'm like, uh-oh. Headlights at a gate usually was like a gang member, especially on the weekends. They'd come up here and they'd tie red flags or hang a red hat, norteños, on the fence here. Just to, try to show their colors or threaten you or intimidate you or whatever. So I turned on they're called ambers, orange lights in the front and rear of my car. It was inside. It was just an unmarked white Crown Vic, the supervisor car. And I had a canine. She saved my life right here one time. She saw 3 gang members here that I couldn't see. She has extra night vision and hearing, and jumped out of the car and pinned them against this wall. Because I was sitting right here and didn't see them, and they were right where the fire had started. And the police couldn't get to me because they couldn't jump over these fences. It was a very scary situation. So if you ever hear me say that my dog saved my life one time, she really did. Because I proned them out right here in the total darkness with nothing but a flashlight and a dog. 3 against 1 right here against this wall. Thank God that he pulled me out of that, amen. So I come flying over here, and I noticed that the gate's opening. Now remember, it's real dark, and I still have Prophet Levengood on the phone as my witness. And what was right here, should probably do a short version of this too. What was right here was a armored truck. I mean, the thing looked like a tank. It wasn't your normal armored truck. It was like a tank. And it was green, and this Yuba County doesn't have one. They didn't at the time. This was early, like summer of 2011. And so I immediately pull off to the side here, and I'm thinking, what is this? Obviously it's some type of law enforcement, but nobody called me. The school didn't call me. There was no advance notice. And see, if they had just came around here and found a guy, we wore all black uniforms in the dark, who knows what could have happened. Gun against gun, they call it. It's never a good thing. I talked to my law enforcement friend of a long time. He said whenever they do these what they call drills, they have to go out weeks in advance and notify all the neighbors. See all these neighbors. This is a church. Ended up being good friends with them. Gave them free security for their fireworks stand. We just was made friends with people, not enemies. They didn't. None of these people got a notification that they were going to have a live active shooter drill at this school. Nobody did. Nobody called. Even they have armed security here. So I immediately he shows up and he comes out and he's like in all camo and there's a truck full of guys with automatic weapons and this armor tank, and I'm like, look, my job is to secure this school, and I'm the owner of the company, and the checks come from the school, not them. So I said, nobody told me you were coming, and I looked at him and I noticed his uniform didn't appear to be local law enforcement. This is a small county, right? And people on Facebook can bear witness that I would check in every night here, that I was here every night for almost 2 years straight. Just to be safe, that people knew where I was at. And this is called Olive Hurst Little League Park. What they had done was, instead of to come around to the main gate where I'd have seen them, they had snuck in through the Little League Park, drove up to this side gate, and were coming in a back route, like with no notification. And I said, can I see some ID? And he gave me a really dirty look. But here I am. I have the same taser they carry, the X-26 baton, a K9 in my car going crazy, and a 45. And obviously, I said, I'm school security here. Do I need to make a phone call? Nobody told me you were coming. You just roll up on somebody in the dark. And he said, we didn't know how to get a hold of you. I'll be honest with you, I was upset. Who wouldn't be? You know, I could have got killed. He says, we didn't know how to get a hold of you. Well, that's absolutely incorrect, because every site, I was the owner, every site I start that is going to carry weapons, I notify the local law enforcement agency. I go in there personally and give them a letter of several numbers, and they could have called my office. They could have called my cell phone. They knew we'd been here too. They'd called me several times before, you know, about shots fired in the area and this and that. But they knew how to get a hold of me. They knew we were here. We'd encountered them several times. But you know why they couldn't get a hold of me? Because they weren't local law enforcement. I'm going to repeat that again. They were driving up to the school and they had a key to the gate, and they weren't local law enforcement. So I said, can I see some ID? And he has to identify himself. And he flips out this real quick badge. It looked like a U.S. Marshal's badge. I've seen them before. I've encountered a U.S. Marshal in my line of work before. And so I'm like, you know what he says? The school has been seized. Your relief of duty. Get off my site. And I'm like, okay, man. And he was really serious, and they had automatic weapons. So I did what anybody else would do. I got my car and drove away. Left the school an hour and a half early. Got home and left. I'm not going to say her name, but the person that runs this, in charge of hiring security for schools and stuff, she said she was outraged. She had no idea this was happening. The school didn't know. I didn't know. They left what's called training rounds, the red tip, and they leave actual like casings, brass casings, hundreds of them all over. They ran through this school and literally shot it up like they were playing cops and robbers. And they said it was a drill. And then shortly after, they demolished all this. This school is no longer here. There's no evidence. They never investigated the arson while we were there. Not once. Nobody. We even had obtained evidence of accelerant use and a whiskey bottle and some fingerprints. Nobody wanted to look at it. All the wires to the alarms and CCTV and all that have been cut. They destroyed all of this. It's gone. It's just flat. Drive by it right now if you don't believe me. 1208 Posada and Alicia. This school is nothing but dust. And then they asked us to leave. And the reason why I mention all that is because today I looked and I saw this. Now look, this isn't Yuba County either, but they're at a Yuba County mall. That is what evacuated again from the floods. Here's another picture. Look at the gear they're wearing. He's got a cup on and a face helmet. You know why? They're using actual live training rounds. This is not our local law enforcement. So it says 2 CHP officers investigate the area where a shooter they pursued lied dead during a training exercise. So yesterday they took over this mall. Well, did you hear any notification that they were going to be doing this at Peachtree? I would love to go back into the newspaper and see if it, because here's the thing. Shortly after that, we all know what happened in Sandy Hook, right? There will be live sounds of gunfire. It was a 2-day law enforcement training exercise. The article of the story, it says, Linda hostage drama, just a drill. Thank you, Holy Spirit. I'm going to go down and see if any, look, they've closed comment. Let's see if they say any, if they notified anybody that it was a drill. Hey, Jay, it may not be directly related to the shooting in Connecticut. However, these types of trainings are crucial. I'm gonna see if everybody not safe out here. These are look, only this many comments, and I know who this guy is. He's local here. I guarantee you they didn't make any law enforcement. I'm going to go on the record as saying that. But here's what's interesting. They're saying they got a grant to pay for this, that this was what they're mentioning Sandy Hook out here again. It was a Homeland Security grant through Louisiana State University. That's who funded this 2-day takeover of a mall. Again, with all these several different agencies. Now, I bet you anything they tear that mall down. Remember I said that, and write down today's date. Because you know what they're prepared for? Martial law. Now let's review everything. I had a miracle healing yesterday because I haven't been making a lot of videos lately, just resting and hearing from the Lord. The earthquakes are shifting. They're shifting around the ring, and look where they're coming up. South of the USA. Prophecy's been fulfilled that they've continued and will continue. Look, remember how I said they reduce them over here on USGS? They don't want it to be a 7. Let's go back over here. Yeah, see, they're reducing it to a 6.9 to keep it under a 7, but these remain at 7. Look, I had a feeling they'd do that. They just did that. You saw it after 2 hours. So here's what I'm gonna, as I know the end of all things comes at hand. I'm gonna start releasing more information about this. But it's obviously they call this laser. I've never heard this before in the industry, 21 years. It's law enforcement active shooter emergency response. It's all about having that stress inoculation. In other words, to get used to the real thing, because the real thing's coming. And you know who it is? It's not against the active. Look at firefighters, explorer cadets, and even Caltrans was involved in this. 24 officers, California Highway Patrol, Sutter County, Roseville, Department of Homeland. Okay, so what does this say? Hot air balloons? They then charged down the corridor, passing murals of hot air balloons and a smiling sun as rap music blared. They exchanged fire with the shooter. That don't even make sense. I guess what you're looking at is the preparation for martial law. And that's just like this alleged cop killer being on the loose that they can't catch. I'm going to just go look at my videos from last year of when I started talking about martial law coming. when they can just take over entire malls and just start running around shooting live blank rounds, training rounds they're called. I can tell you that they don't tell you. And I can cite a source in law enforcement for 7 years at Sacramento Police Department that says by law they have to notify the community, but they're not doing that. They're breaking the law, Saints. Peace.